Cryptilians and crypto crackheads, this will be a very quick Bitcoin and Ethereum specific video that'll be very similar to my series of videos when I was the only person talking about we're getting ready to have a correction, a pretty deep correction, and no one really else was talking about it, and then everybody started using the same numbers I was hitting. However, this one will be kind of similar because I'm gonna give more evidence towards something that really no one else is talking about. And I have a feeling that it could end up being the same thing, that in about 3 weeks, it'll be the talk of the town, essentially. So more evidence to the idea that Bitcoin's price will not go below 50K, perhaps for the rest of your life, but especially in the mid and, I guess, long term, short, mid, and long term. So on the short term, real quick, both Bitcoin and Ethereum, the last bull run when Bitcoin and Ethereum corrected. So I'm on Bitcoin right now on the weekly. The weekly RSI of Bitcoin during the June correction and September correction, this was a 38% correction. This one was a 35% correction. The RSI on the weekly were at these two levels. And guess what RSI just hit? What do you think? Right between those two levels. So more evidence that the correction is over. Okay, let's look at that on Ethereum. So Ethereum's is a little bit different. However, since Ethereum at times, or not in Ethereum, since at many times, both in RSI, perhaps even long-term stochastics and price, previous resistance becomes future. Who's yelling at the screen? Support. Future support. Right about here, roughly. Was future resistance for all this shenanigans, right? And it actually used it as support here. Well, and you used it as support there as a quick bounce. Use it as resistance here. Well, guess where it just hit? This is the Ethereum's weekly RSI. There you go. And last time, Ethereum went on a correction and fully broke above its weekly RSI without getting rejected. What happened? It continued its run. There you go. More evidence, right? Okay, I'm not done yet. The Stokes. I don't know if it works out so well on Ethereum. We'll revisit that a little later. But on Bitcoin, the weekly Stokes. So this is going back to, this is 2014, 2016. The bull run of 2017 is here, right? So we're focusing roughly on this bull run there. There is a very, a pretty clear support and resistance trend line in the weekly Stokes. Right there. Resistance. 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 So how it went up and crashed down. Support. Yeah, sort of resistance. Sort of support. So anyway, several points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's enough to make a line that actually, should mean something. Well, where's the fast Stokes right now? At the trend line. If this truly ends up being support, what do you think Stokes will do once blue line fully hits it? Curl back up. What does it take to curl back up? A weekly close. That's a big green candle. What kind of week do we have right now? Anybody know? Raise your hand. Actually yell at your screen. A big green candle. So the premise, my premise, actually one of the bases, as I believe I covered in 1 or 2 of my videos, I was saying that I do feel that this week, so last week I was saying this, right? I said, and I think a week and a half ago I was saying, actually, I'm going to change my tune. I don't think Bitcoin will close candles below 50K, and here's why. But anyway, but within that, I was thinking that this week could be hyper volatile, go down first to 45 or even 42, and then scream back up and close within the week above this candle closing specifically. And I actually used the word, I specifically think this, right? And I also said it could just go up, but regardless, I specifically think this week right here. And I was saying it when we were on this candle. So you couldn't even see this green candle at the time. So everything was red when I was saying this, right? Last week. I said, I believe this next week, which is now this week, will close specifically above this candle's closing. But I also said, I think, you know, the first few days of the week, it could charge down, come back up, close there, or even go way up, like the 56K. There are multiple options. So now, my three most probable and 2 odd ifs have changed on Bitcoin because we can see that the beginning of the week did, in fact, not do that. It just went straight up. So now my probables and my analysis has to change. So I've seen a lot of confusion on, you know, with a bunch of noobs and retail investors, which that's fine. My channel is made for you. If you're a retail investor, you're a noob to this. I'm here to help you and make money. So I'm not saying that in some, you know, diminutive fashion. Or reductive fashion or anything like that. I mean, hell, I was a noob in 2017 and I got smoked in 2018, which is kind of why I'm doing this. Because most people get screwed, particularly from watching YouTubers who have no idea what price action is. And a lot of the ones who talk about price actions have no idea what they're talking about, especially the ones saying it's the end of the bull market when we're clearly closing candles above the weekly 21. Just asinine. And Ethereum closing candles, all green candles. Some crypto YouTubers who deal with price action were saying the bear market began when Ethereum has all green candles on the weekly. Wow. So that goes to say that a lot of people who are talking about price action crypto literally have no clue who they mentioned. But the people whom I have recommended to both my viewers over time and my patrons, they definitely know what they talk about. That's why I mentioned their names. Even though it's possible I've been mocked by one, but then it stopped. But he's, you know, but the people I recommend my viewers to watch to get a different type of analysis, they are very, very, very good at what they do. But anyway, but their analysis is totally different than mine. And the last couple times my analysis has been a couple steps ahead. But again, my streak will end and I will be totally wrong and they will be right probably before the end of the year. It's just how it works. But right now I'm sort of on a roll. In terms of mid-term trends, I've totally broken my streak on short-term trends, particularly with Ethereum. Ethereum really didn't correct. It's just, and so therefore I changed my tune, right? Per my video, actually earlier today, my late night one. If you haven't watched it, go look at it. It's a really good video. But anyway, so so that's really all I got. The RSI weekly for Bitcoin, the RSI weekly for Ethereum, both support the notion that historically, in if this statement, if X happens, then Y is the result, supports my theory that Bitcoin's price will not go below 50K for more than, 12 hours. It could wick down there on a day or something like that, but close soundly above 50K. So we'll let that slide if it's intraday and it closes above 50K, right? But honestly, I kind of anticipate that doesn't even happen. And in my video, actually, let's look at the Ethereum Stokes. Let's see what we're looking at here. So when Ethereum was going sideways for 200 days, I think this is what it was doing. Actually, let's look at the price. So it was from roughly June, to December, more than half the year. That's crazy. So this is sideways and up on the origin lines. That's I didn't know that. So July, June to December, it did all this. So the Stokes on Ethereum actually do give it some room to the downside, which is additional support for my theory that we're about ready to see a hyper confusing market, which has no one seen before, because I really do anticipate Ethereum and Bitcoin are going to move in opposite directions on the short term, perhaps mid-ish term, like in a few weeks, for a few weeks, that Bitcoin will be heading up towards its upper origin line while, or staying steady, right? While Ethereum makes its way down to, so I think that Bitcoin can stay steady because it's already met its RSI and its Stoke levels. I think it can stay steady like this on the weekly, or if you want to see it on the 4-hour midterm ribbons, what it would look like is this. It'll stay above the gray line you're about ready to see, hopefully, if TradingView would stop freezing. It'll stay above this gray line, as I mentioned in my late night video that I published earlier today. It'll bounce on this gray line here, like so, maybe wick below it, right? And then get squeezed out, and the candles on the weekly will look something like this as that happens. Perhaps not that high. It could make a lower high, but go like this. Anyway, so Bitcoin in general will be sideways and up for the time in the next 3 to 4 weeks that Ethereum corrects. So even the Stokes of the Stoke and RSI of Bitcoin mixed with the Stokes and RSI of Ethereum support both that Bitcoin will not go below 50K and that price of these two assets for a 2-week, 3-week time frame are about ready to move in slightly opposite directions, or at least maybe not opposite directions, but not the same direction. So sideways, Bitcoin, Ethereum down, or Bitcoin just barely down and sideways, holding steady, and Ethereum down, you know, by 20%. I think that the Stokes are supporting that in the RSIs. So, so again, when I was ranting and raving about, you know, we're due to have a correction, you know, this month, you know, is going to be a red month, this and that, I was getting laughed at, but I kept pushing more and more insights on what I'm seeing in the chart that that is not only evidence, but a couple of them were not, they were a trend of the lifetime of the coin, which is even more important than the macro trend that we've had since October. So I kept giving more and more evidence before, you know, it was known that this was actually happening, before anybody else was calling for it. Even though I think I did see one trader who was kind of cautioning his viewers. So, so give that person credit. Somebody I used to watch quite a bit, but anyway, but specific target levels like 42K, 45K, 47K, which is what I was targeting, that ended up being popular after the drop commenced. Anyway, so I kept giving more and more support, and that's what I'm doing this time for the idea of two ideas: sine, cosine. Bitcoin and Ethereum are about ready to move, not in the exact same direction, right? And two, that Bitcoin will not go below 50K on any daily close until you die, even in the short term. So that's what I'm doing. If I end up finding more and more evidence for this as we move along, I will keep producing this. And then I will kind of stop talking about it at the point where I see in the charts that what I'm guessing is wrong, or until it's obvious to other people and all the other YouTubers start talking about it. So so I will likely keep finding more and more evidence for this. And if I come up shy and I can't find any more evidence, then I'll just talk about other stuff. Perhaps talk about small alts. But that's what I'm seeing in the market right now. In my opinion, nothing really has changed. We're on course for the 3 most probables and 2 what ifs that I have essentially laid forth recently. And to recap those on Ethereum, Ethereum could either ride this gray line and get a squeeze play out, which is what this you're seeing here. It could scream up halfway between this line and this line, and then ride the line, come correct down. Or another probable, fairly probable situation is that Ethereum could scream up, hesitate a tiny bit, come up to here, and then correct and wick to its weekly 21, which by that time will be about here, and touch its weekly 21 after hitting this next origin line. So those are the 3 things that we have in play. I think the 2 more likely ones is that we ride this gray line and get a squeeze play, maybe tied with the idea that Ethereum might just pop its head and then ride this line, because that is just what it, I mean, that's what it just did here. Look. Right there. So it got above and just peeked its head and rode it. And it's actually more visible on the weekly closes. all the wicks closed above. And I think that might be tied for most likely. So I kind of am torn between, which is most probable. So if you can see this on Ethereum here, it poked its head up and closed all candles above. So with this sort of red candle, that could actually make it so that the Stokes come down to that support and resistance line and still actually move in the exact same direction as Bitcoin, which is sideways and up. So if Ethereum ends up doing this, and a replica of this peaks its head above this line and closes all candles, even if it dips, it's fine, but it closes up here, closes up here, closes up here, that would mean that the sine cosine theory will be wrong. And I think there's a strong chance that that sine cosine theory will be wrong, because Ethereum does behave this way, and it has done this a few times, and it actually did it most recently, crossing this origin line here. So I think that might be tied for most probable. Okay, so tied for most probable is ride this line, squeeze play, with it rides this line, and then allows its weekly 21 and maybe wicks, and then heads up. And then the third most probable is it either does this, comes up to like, 4,000 or 3,800, or comes all the way up to 4,500, and then goes like that. So that's kind of like my third or fourth most probable. And then my what if is that since there is pretty big news on the horizon internationally for Ethereum, I don't know, it might race up past this, use it as support for 2 weeks, and race up to 10K. And honestly, that's not just like a 1% what if, kind of like I thought BPRO hitting its under 1 cent trend line horizontal, which it ended up doing. But I mentioned it was a what if, right? Right when price was still above 4 cents, right? And I just retweeted on that. And it was kind of funny. I said, right now is probably a great time to take profits on BPRO, as everybody was saying it's going to go higher. And then right after that 15 seconds, I said, it could come all the way down under a penny to this trend. But anyway, so among all what ifs that I've ever said, this one is not a super improbable one. Ethereum really could. I think it has strong single digits chances of going straight to something like 5K, resting on this trend line, on this origin line, and going like hesitating for maybe 3 weeks, and then going straight to 10K. I mean, this could happen before July. So I think that might be like a 7% chance, 5% chance, but that's still 1 in 20 is 5%. That's not horrible odds, but I would still say it might be like the 5th most likely. But regardless, even if Ethereum corrects here like 20% or something, that's still extremely bullish. Yeah, 25%. Even if it does that, it's still super bullish. I mean, it's getting ready to fly, and it's still more than on pace to hit 30K. Ethereum would still be more than on pace to hit 30K by the end of the year. And that's all I got for you. That's your Bitcoin and Ethereum wrap up. Feel free to subscribe or check out my most recent video if you missed it, or the video that I recommend for new viewers to watch also on the top. And if you didn't subscribe, or if you did subscribe and you're new to this, let me know if you want to be a cryptillion or a crypto crackhead. You just got Timified.